Holger, you're in the middle of the breaking news right now that everybody is talking about. I wanted to first ask you about the investigation, how it was carried out, and at this point, as a result of this investigation, what do we know and what we actually don't know yet?
Yes, that's a very important question, what we do know and what we don't know. It's the investigation of the Federal Prosecutor's Office in Germany. It started shortly after the attack on Nord Stream 2 at the end of September of last year. So it's something like a 5 months long investigation. And the main point is that the German investigators were able to identify a sailing boat, which was rented at the beginning of September, precisely September 6th. In a German harbor called Rostock. It was loaded with equipment, obviously also explosives. It was rented by 6 people, 5 men and 1 woman, allegedly 2 divers among them, and then shipped up to Bornholm and a small island called Christianø, Danish island, and from there on to the Nord Stream 2 place where the pipelines are on the ground. And the key investigation is that the investigators found out that the boat carried on traces of the explosives that were used during the attack. So we know for sure that this boat has been used, the infrastructure has been used, and there are traces pointing towards Ukraine. There's a company in Poland by 2 Ukrainians which rented the boat, and several other Ukrainian citizens obviously involved. So that's for sure the facts that we know until today.
And what about the main things that we don't know?
Well, we don't know who gave the order. Is this a state-sponsored terrorist attack? Do the traces lead directly to Kiev, to President Zelensky? Or is it just an operation where some Ukrainians have been involved, but carried out by and sponsored by someone else? There's a lot of disinformation in the air right now, so we have to be careful pinpointing with a finger in a political direction. But so far, the traces at least point towards people with Ukrainian descent.
Holger, it sounds like it's a very well orchestrated operation. It's not something that people could just do in not premeditated way. Is there a talk about that? Is there a talk about the complexity of how it was organized, and how is it explained, and is it going to provide further links as to how sophisticated the operation was, and who could possibly be the ordering side of that operation?
That's exactly right, Julia. We know for sure that this is an operation that is showing a lot of professional signs. First, the passports that were used to rent the boat in Germany, they were complete forgeries on a professional level. That is not something that you can buy somewhere in a capital behind the railway station. Secondly, the explosives, it was professional military style explosives. And third, the depth in which the operation took place. It's the pipeline in a depth of 70 to 80 meters. That is something that only professional divers will be able to dive to and to conduct there. So there are several key factors which point out that there is a professional involvement, either from people with a military background or with an intelligence background, and that alone is an indication that there is some kind of governmental involvement here, which government whatsoever.
Holger, do we know anything about how this vessel actually entered the territory around Nord Stream? Was it somehow monitored, that area? Was it possible to tell exactly how, like what waters they came from and how they managed to cross into the waters of Denmark? How was it?
Well, the German investigators spent a great deal of time tracking down all the vessels that were potentially cruising in that area in that time frame. They identified a couple of dozens of boats who didn't use transponders. Julia, you know that boats usually have carrier transponder, so you can see where they were sailing. In this case, this very boat that is at discussion here did not use a transponder, but they were able to raid the boat at the beginning of January of this year. This is confirmed by the prosecutor's office now, and they were able to trace the movements of the boat. So the boat, obviously, from small island to small island, got closer to the site of the attack, and it looks like that something was carried out overnight. So they obviously tried to obfuscate their movements and to leave no traces behind.
Holger, we're talking about two investigations here. New York Times also published their own investigation. And you on Twitter actually explained the difference. Could you explain it to our audience?
Yes, I think it is important to distinguish here between intelligence, so the world of intelligence agencies with a lot of, let's say, rumors, theories, hints from sources. Just one source, for example, claimed already in early October that there was a group coming from Ukraine behind the attack. This is usually coming out of a world of shadows, not necessarily credible. So German investigators were extremely careful of building too much on that. In this case here, we're speaking about a prosecutor's investigation carried out by the German police. So there is, of course, also intelligence elements in this, but the main thing is this is really forensics. So chemical traces, passports, witness statements, footage of video cameras in a harbor and so on. So what we know is quite solid criminalistic evidence and not just rumors coming out of the world of intelligence. It doesn't say again and again, not necessarily who is politically behind it. This is the next stage of the investigation. The investigation is still ongoing, but what we are discussing and what we are seeing here is kind of credible.
The German government on Tuesday said that it had taken note of the New York Times investigation as well. How is the reaction? What reaction are you seeing right now in Germany from the government sources?
Well, the whole thing is shaking up things here in Germany and in Europe, given the close support that the European countries and Germany are providing to the Ukrainian government, and that this would be at stake, or at least with a question mark, if we would find out that the Ukrainian government would be involved here. So the German government tries to react in a calm way. The German Minister of Defense today issued a statement where he said, like, we can't rule out that this is a false flag operation, meaning an operation which is specifically designed to pinpoint towards Ukraine and the Ukrainian government. Obviously, that would be in Russia's interest. But so far, we don't have a clear indication for such a false flag operation. But definitely, there is caution and careful reaction here in Europe.
Holger, considering the complexity of the situation and careful dancing around the topic of the Russian-Ukrainian war, for you as an investigative journalist, for the whole team, how difficult it was to carry out this investigation and to actually disclose the facts that you published? And do you anticipate that you would be able to do that in the future, and that we would, from you, find out more about the whole NordStream affair?
Well, the journalistic investigation here was incredibly difficult, just for the pure reason that everybody who's touching that subject knows exactly well how sensitive, how explosive the whole topic is. The investigators know exactly that this is not a normal criminal investigation, just finding out who a murderer is or something like that. This is world politics. It's going to shape potentially the future of support for Ukraine. It has political implications all around the world. And therefore, everybody who touches that subject is extremely careful in sharing details. And only because we investigated for such a long time and really over a period of months, we were able to basically learn about the status of the findings. But given the nature of the hints we have, and we saw the forensics, the explosive, the company in Poland, the forged passports, and so on, I believe that there is a good reason to hope that at the end we will at least be able to track down a little bit more precise which circle of people is behind it. I don't know if we will learn finally about the motives and who gave the order, but I'm quite optimistic that we're going to see some results, not within days, maybe within weeks or even within months, but there will be something at the end.